the price of the 40 series has been disappointing, but its overall performance and power efficiency has been surprisingly good. And the power efficiency could lead to really impressive mobility GPUs, so laptop discrete GPUs. Now, WCCF Tech is claiming to have the entire lineup, all of its performance numbers stacked up against the entire 3000 series lineup, and they're claiming that it's officially, well, sourced from Jensen himself. In other words, official Nvidia documents. Now, should we believe them? They did say that they were one of the first publications, and they link the article here, to leak the 3000 series mobility lineup. And, you know, they had official slides at that time. Now, in this current article, they're not showing us the actual slides, but they're saying that's because they're worried about persistent digital watermarks or slide layouts being unique to their source and then compromising their source. So they're claiming that that is why they have now just used an Excel spreadsheet to bring us this. Now, this is the entire 4000 series lineup against the 3000 series, and remember, these are the mobility GPUs, and I believe these are TimeSpy scores. Now, the other thing that we should talk about here is that they're saying that while the performance chart showed a 4080 Ti as the top-end chip, they're saying that in all of the other slides that they have documenting the lineup and information going to board partners and things like that, they said they did not see a 4080 Ti, they saw a 4090. Now remember, the underlying chip here is the GN21-X11, and so basically they're confident in this chip and this score, but it may or may not be named a 4080 Ti. And at this point, Nvidia could still change the branding. They could also change the release dates and pricing, but WCCF Tech is claiming that this is accurate as of today, according to Jensen himself. Anyway, so what do we got here? Well, you've probably already been reading it while I was talking, but we've got the 3050 4GB as our current lowest-end 3000 series laptop GPU at a score of 5000. The 3050 Ti, which there is a Ti version of the 3050 and mobility, getting 5800. We're seeing RTX 3050 6GB. They're putting some question marks here. Was there a 6GB version on mobility? I don't know. But anyway, 6500. And then we're seeing RTX 4050 GN21X2. So even if they change the naming, they're claiming it's that GPU, coming in at a score of 7500. Notice that that does mean the 4050 will not be catching up to the laptop 3060, which scores 8800. So if you were hoping a 4050 laptop would beat the current 3060, that does not seem to be the case. The 3070 coming in at 10,500, but then we're seeing the RTX 4060s, or whatever they call it. It's a GN21-X4 GPU, probably to be called the 4060, coming in at 11,400. So it does look like the 4060 will beat the 3070, even though the 4050 won't beat the 3060. 3070 Ti, 3080, and 3080 Ti are all beating the 4060, but then we see the 4070 faster than the laptop 3080 Ti. Again, laptop versions we're looking at here. And then we're seeing the 4080, of course, ahead of the 4070, and then the 4080 Ti, which they said there's a lot of evidence might actually end up being called a 4090, being further ahead of that with a score of 17,300. So, interesting stuff, and once again, they are claiming that this will all be announced in January at CES, and they are claiming that the first one to actually launch is going to be the highest end first. So it says press will be seated with RTX 4080 mobility and the GN21X11, which could be called a 4080 Ti or a 4090. First in early February, followed by the rest of the mobility SKUs, and the reviews and product launches will happen by mid-February 2023 at the most. So, it's really interesting stuff. Also, they're saying that the SKUs being listed here for these laptops do feature Raptor Lake H mobility CPUs, which would mean that those are probably also going to be announced at CES. With laptops probably coming in January, early February. And again, they link their actual source as Jensen. Anyway, so really cool stuff. We'll see if it comes out to be true, but this does seem to be a very confident posting from WCCF Tech, with a history of a similar post from the same source being accurate. Next thing I want to talk about, guys, is if you've been following my channel a while, you know I absolutely love OLED monitors. But, well, I actually have an OLED TV, because the problem with OLED's gaming screens is that most of them are TVs. They've only been recently coming in as monitors, and those monitors are usually gigantic. The smallest one currently available is the Alienware ultra-wide, 34-inch ultra-wide, but a lot of people don't want to go ultra-wide, and also that's pretty expensive. And in other words, can we just get a normal 1440p OLED monitor? It looks like that is finally going to actually happen, starting for $1,000, and this will come in with the 240 Hz refresh rate. And remember, OLEDs have amazing response time. So if you were waiting for an OLED actual like competitive gaming display, this could be amazing, because like the LG C1 and C2 TVs are cool, but they're really big and they're 120 Hertz, great response times, but 240 Hertz with OLED response time and perfect blacks and everything, this just looks fantastic. We could scroll through the specs here, but actually I originally found this on a Reddit post which summarized the most important details that you guys would probably be interested in here, which is basically the price. It's a 27-inch 1440p 0.03 claimed response time gray to gray, which is what OLED screens from LG get. If you're wondering, is it QD OLED, it does look like it's W OLED, so more like the LG TVs and not like the Alienware ultra-wide. It is FreeSync Premium with G-Sync compatibility, but that means it doesn't have the G-Sync module, which honestly means that saves money and doesn't really lose you a whole lot, if anything. It's looking like a Q1 2023 release, which would mean we'd probably expect an announcement at CES. And again, claiming excellent colors. Now, the LG TVs have had a reflective coating, which helps in a bright environment to preserve the perfect black levels. The anti-glare matte coatings are more like the Alienware from Dell, and some people prefer that, especially if you're in a bright environment. But it does mean that the perfect black levels don't look as perfect when there's any light in the room at all. Also, if you hear my kids talking and some cartoons going right now, that's because I have a kid homesick with me and they're just hanging out nearby while I do my thing. Anyway, so also again, HDR10 support. This is a flat 1440p screen, not curved, and again, it's not ultra wide, so that should be fine and probably preferred by most people. 10-bit color, and there's no details on the SDR or HDR brightness, so that is a bit of a question. Again, brightness levels on OLEDs tend to be their main downside compared to other technology, but basically everything about them is better besides brightness and the potential for image retention, so that's also something to be concerned about. I don't have any issues with that personally on my LG C1. But again, OLEDs are really best used for entertainment rather than productivity, so that you don't have constant static, UI elements and things like that. They're just the same all the time, or a taskbar, those kinds of things. Anyway, let's move on, but I'm incredibly excited about this, and I think a lot of people might be. Anyway, now let's jump over to I've never been happier to be wrong. In my last video, I mentioned, because I was checking online at places like PC Part Picker, which round up a lot of online stuff, that the RTX 4080, at least in their cheaper models, seem to mostly have sold out. But then I got a ton of comments saying, in person at places like Micro Center, these things are not selling out. People are actually voting with their wallets and telling Nvidia, no, we're not paying $1,200 for an 80-class GPU. I absolutely love the 4080, other than the price. I really think it's an excellent GPU, and if it gets priced lower, it's going to, I think, be an excellent choice for a lot of people. And the only way to get it priced lower is for it to not sell at the higher prices. That's it. That's the only thing that's going to do it. We're seeing various tweets from knowledgeable sources saying that the 4080 shipped 30,000 units, whereas the 4090 has shipped 130,000 units, making the total RTX 40 series shipped units at 160,000, whereas the 4090 pretty much instantly sold out and continues to sell out anytime it's less than like $2,000. It's looking like retailers report as having a lot of 4080s in stock. We're seeing shots of like Micro Centers and such, with them just sitting on the shelves. So anyway, it's nice to see people voting with their wallets that $1,200 for this GPU is too much. If this thing came down below $1,000, I think it would actually be a pretty attractive option. You know, it'd be nice to see it at 800 or 900, but I think it could take us a while to get there. But could we actually see a Black Friday sale on this thing? That's probably way too soon. But either way, I'm excited to see this. Now, in an article on the same topic, WCCF Tech has decided to, and you know what, I'm just going to like, boom, disappear. Thanos snap myself out of existence. They've lined up the, you know, by year and then, you know, your top-end GPU and its price. And you can see the price creep here over time. And then it's especially egregious, like we see here with the 80 class. Because when you look in here at the 80 class, we saw the 980 was $550. We saw the 1080 was $550. We saw the 2080 at $700. We saw the 2080 Super at $700. The 3080 10GB was at $700. The 3080 12GB didn't really get an official MSRP, but they're calling it $800. And then you see the 4080 just suddenly jump $1,200. Guys, this is absolutely insane. We were seeing reasonable pricing jumps along with inflation and performance until this. So this is just too much. Anyway, interesting stats here if you want to continue down the lineup, by the way, and look at the 70 classes and the 60 classes. And anyway, hopefully Nvidia gets the memo and has more reasonable pricing for the rest of the lineup as it launches. Now, speaking of things that cost too much getting discounts, how about the Ryzen 9 7950X and other Ryzen 7000 series CPUs from AMD, although currently this is only looking like in Europe that we're seeing discounted pricing. But it is a big drop, going from 849 euros down to 669 on the 7950X. This is an article from Video Cards, where I'm getting this information from. But they're claiming to be seeing, you know, just big price jump all of a sudden, price drop all of a sudden, I guess. And we are seeing them tally up the current prices in these European retailers, showing the 7950X with that big jump we just talked about, 7900X dropping from 669 down to 550, 7700X dropping from 479 to 410, and 7600X going from 359 down to 300. So interesting stuff. Now, speaking of things being more affordable, as well as new laptops, Acer is launching their AMD Ryzen 7000 Mendocino. I think that's the ch sound there. Mendocino, not Mendocino, right? Anyway, powered Aspire 3 laptops. So these are not, you know, super powerful things, but when we heard about the Mendocino APUs, they were targeting these lower pricing classes, and it does look like these are starting to get to be available. So these are out there, and we do see the summary from WCCF Tech of the Mendocino lineup. Now remember, while these do have RDNA 2 graphics, it's only 2 compute units at a low power level, so don't expect a lot of gaming performance coming out of these things. Anyway, in other news, we're seeing GPU-Z being updated to better support the 4000 series. It looks like it can now monitor the 16-pin power input through the GPU-Z sensor data. And it also, if you read the rest of the patch notes, just has better overall support for the 4080 and some other extensions and whatnot. There's the full version history update if you're interested. Now, we're also seeing EK introducing waterblocks for Zotac RTX 4090 and 4080 Trinity and Amp Extreme GPUs. So if you were interested in water blocking them, maybe to make them smaller, fit in a different kind of case, EK waterblocks, there you go. We see the pricing underneath me if I just slide out of the way. So you can take a look at that if you're interested. And then I didn't want to lead with this because I think you're all sick of hearing it, and this is probably going to be the last time we talk about it unless there's any other big update. But the melting 16-pin 12VH power cables on the RTX 4090s. The official statement from Nvidia is finally out. They basically are confirming what Gamers Nexus concluded, which is it's primarily user error by not having the cables fully inserted, and that it is only, to their knowledge, 50 out of 125,000 units that have had this failure. However, I will say, well, I agree it probably is user error. If your design makes user error more likely, then it's also a design problem, and we should all be clear about that. So yes, it's user error, but it's user error that is more likely to make than on the old connectors because of the design of the connection. Anyway, I hope all of you have an excellent day.